Aberdeen's historic grammar school, risen from the ashes of a catastrophic fire back in July 1986. 5 years of careful planning and rebuilding have eradicated the visible scars of that blaze. Now only the memories remain. It was lunchtime on July the 2nd that the alarm was raised. A fire had broken out in the centre of the grammar school, housing not only classrooms, but also the library, home to a priceless collection of books, records and artefacts. Despite the valiant efforts of the fire brigade, the flames took hold within minutes. Roof turrets became giant smoking chimneys.
I was out at the back of the school at the bun queue when suddenly saw a lot of smoke over the building and realised this is something odd, and dashed through, and of course by that time the fire was already beginning to take hold.
Now you knew just how many priceless artefacts and books were inside that building. It must have been a shock to discover so much had been destroyed.
Oh, it was horrifying because at first we didn't realise the fire was going to be nearly as extensive. I suppose in retrospect you realise that an awful lot could have been saved if you'd realised it was going to be so disastrous.
Teaching staff could only look on helplessly as the blaze continued to spread. Through the flames they caught an occasional glimpse of the destruction they were powerless to stop. School pupils were slightly less sentimental. Only once the flames had been defeated did the full size of the tragedy become clear. Just a tiny part of the school's historic collection was saved, including this copy of the roll, containing the name of the grammar's most famous pupil, Lord Byron. But out of the destruction, a new modern interior has been born, with all the facilities needed by a school looking ahead to the next century. A new art department now occupies what had been the roof space of the old library, with carefully designed roof lighting. For the first time, all the school's departments, including home economics, are under one roof instead of divided between two sites. Overseeing this major reconstruction, a rector who's bravely run a school in the midst of a building site.
At my age and stage, I think it really has been a positive opportunity to build something almost immediately, to see it come to fruition, and to look ahead now at facilities which will benefit pupils and staff here for a long time to come. Emerging from it has been the positive of redesigning the school to modern standards, to be able to blend a modern interior with that magnificent historical exterior.
The present grammar school dates from 1863, but the history of the school goes back more than 700 years. The Grammars built up a reputation for academic excellence, numbering amongst its former pupils a Scottish secretary, captains of industry and rulers of the empire. But its reputation was not always so enviable.
Back in the days in School Hill, usually around about Christmas for some reason or another, they usually complained about not getting enough holidays then, and they would riot and take the school over, and sometimes they got more holidays and sometimes they got expelled.
But things have changed now.
Oh, much so, very much so now, much calmer institution.
A special ceremony this afternoon marked the official reopening of the fire-damaged section. The audience heard this marked a new chapter in the school's long history. The orchestra played an original piece written for the occasion, the Phoenix Fanfare. From the ashes of the past, Aberdeen Grammar could now look to the future.
That report from Andrew Anderson.
Hello, and also on tonight's programme, a new Aberdeen Grammar School rises from the ashes. Aberdeen Grammar School, which was virtually destroyed in a spectacular fire 6 years ago, has been reopened. It cost £3 million to rebuild the historic school, which is a Category B listed building. From Aberdeen, Jane Frankie.
At the time, it was hard to grasp that such an enormous blaze was started by a spark from a paint stripping gun. In less than an hour, the wood panelling in the 130-year-old building had gone up in flames, and the interior was virtually destroyed.
The pupils, who started off as finding this as a reasonably amusing diversion from their normal activities, very rapidly became very sombre and subdued, and in fact many of them were extremely upset and a lot of tears were to be seen.
The aptly named Phoenix Fanfare, composed for the reopening ceremony, paid tribute to the fact that something could rise out of those ashes. From the outside, under the gaze of its most famous former pupil, the school looks as it always did. But inside, the ancient has given way to the very modern. There are now 4 floors instead of 3, and the facilities are much improved.
There is no doubt that in the past the school facade, which is beautiful, well, most would agree it's beautiful, concealed a fair degree of Victorian squalor, and that has been replaced by a far more up-to-date building suitable for the purposes of the next century.
After 6 years and £3 million of rebuilding, today's grammar school population saw former pupil, Grampian Region convener Bob Middleton, officially reopen the building.
Jane Frankie reporting.